Eagles fans and LinkedIn country, as we say it over here. Let's ride into another season. So, LinkedIn podcast where we talk everything about the Eagles. Finally back. It's been a while. We haven't really been covering training camp or preseason. Took the summer off. Took some time off the show, but we're starting up the show for the season. I got Lindy with me as always. Lindy, how you doing today?
Fantastic as I hit my microphone to start this, but another Eagles season is pretty much here. Week 1 starts, I believe, September 10th. We go to Gillette and Foxborough to play the Patriots, and but the Birds got to take care of a couple of things
Oh,
first.
yeah.
We got to break that down to the final 53.
To the final 53. To the final 53. So I guess let's just get right back into it. So if you guys missed this, Jalen Hurts was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So Jalen Hurts has been all in the news this week. The Eagles quarterback there was a big article about him. Did the interview, did the photo shoot, newest athlete for Jordan Brand. So he's got all kinds of stuff going on. So definitely good for him. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, I definitely think I'm going to try to get a copy of one of these because that is pretty cool. So the main thing about the article that I wanted to focus on was the comments from the QB about the Super Bowl, about how he was in the locker room, or I don't actually think the comments was from Jalen. I think it was like one of the assistant coaches or somebody actually said he walked up to all the people, all the team, all the players, coaches, and said basically, if you guys are going to blame somebody, then blame me. Obviously, he's very hard on himself for the fumble. I want to say this, though. I like it. I like it because I think it shows his leadership. Even though we know that it probably wasn't his fault that the team lost, I still like the fact that he loves taking that responsibility. I think it shows who he really is as a man and as a quarterback and a leader of this team. Of course, he wasn't going to get up there and say stuff like, well, the defense put up 38 or the defense allowed 38. So, what am I supposed to do? He's not gonna say stuff like that. Of course, he's not. But I really like to see that from him, and I think that this is just the guy that you want to lead the team. I think other players and people in the organization also respect that about him. So, is he a little hard on himself? Yeah, but I also think that it's to be expected. So, getting ready for another season with Jalen coming off his big season last year. Looking forward to seeing the way that he's going to follow it up.
He doesn't have that kind of pull about him to create any kind of blame deflection, as we have known of the, maybe the old Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady has built that quite a few times between a mix of his time at the Buccaneers and for how long he's been with the Patriots. But nonetheless, it's just not how Hertz is wired. It's not how he operates, and I think it's just a testament to his character. It's a testament to his drive, his determination, and his ongoing will to be the best, like the best football player, not just at his position, but from a general perspective. And we know in
Mm-hmm.
this league how valuable the quarterback position is, for arguably the most valuable position in all of football. And I mean, I'm not surprised by it. And, but, nor am I surprised of people in the X verse or Twitterverse, whatever you want to call it, to try and say that, oh, look how corny this is, the cringe of him taking a script from what sounds to be a movie and having everybody blame him. But it's just it's a selfless character that he possesses, and there's an intelligence behind it. And I do feel Devontae Smith shares this a little bit with himself too, and it kind of reminds me of that Jordan mentality, branching off of it, and how it's
Yeah.
shared amongst some of his teammates. I think it was another article, Devontae Smith talking about how he only gets 3-4 hours of sleep, and that's how he performs at his best. I remember I remember watching something about Michael Jordan and where in his time in Barcelona with the Dream Team, how he was talking to one of his buddies about that. He would only get so much sleep because he was just such a competitive freak on the court, just not wanting any breaks in between. And that's just how he was wired, how he was operating, and the same goes for Hurts. So long as it doesn't get in the way of damaging his health or nothing, much like the stories we heard about the shoulder injury and Mailata wanting him to stay down on the field, and it hurts saying, "Pick me the F up." You love to hear stuff about that, but it's just
the article also mentioned how in that game he broke
reckless about it.
He thought that he broke his collarbone is what he thought, but he was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna finish the game. So like, the guy's crazy. The guy's crazy. In a good way. In a good way. But
I think it was the next play or two after that, he hits AJ Brown with that bomb, sets them up in the red zone.
Great throw.
Absolute
Great
dog. Unbelievable.
You have people like James Jones that's saying stuff like, well, Jalen Hurts hasn't even made a great throw in his career and all this stuff. Like, how can you compare him to Justin Fields? And, it's just crazy to me. But the Eagles are very fortunate that they ended with Jalen Hurts because, let's face it, the day that Jalen Hurts was drafted, it sent shockwaves to Philadelphia. And
understatement.
I don't think anybody was going to expect that it would have this much of a 180 since then. So it's awesome stuff.
You want to call, I'll make this last point about it. You want to call what Hurts says scripted or cringe about
it's not
that Super Bowl loss? Go see some of the past press conferences after a loss and Carson Wentz trying to explain himself and tell me stuff like that's not scripted, because he sounded exactly the same just about every.
He sounds like a robot. He says the same exact thing after every press conference, especially 2020. Like I didn't really notice it in the other years, but I don't know if it was just amplified because of how bad the team was, but every game was the same. It was like, like, I'm gonna be better. I will be better. It was the same phrase. Like, it was the same phrase, but maybe it was just like worded differently. But Carson was saying the same crap every game, and it was insane. It was just crazy to me.
So does Dougie P. So did Dougie P. to a degree, but I don't blame him as much as I, blamed Carson in that regard. Because I mean, I'm sure at that point, Doug was probably at a complete loss. Like, it's like, what do you guys want me to do with this guy? that's sort of
a little bit of
Doc Rivers to Ben Simmons. That's how it felt. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh man, you gotta love it. So let's talk about some other stuff now. Next, let's talk about the latest trade rumors that's been swirling in the NFL. So this whole situation is very interesting. a whole bunch of drama started with Jonathan Taylor earlier, a few weeks ago, or however long it was, when the team was putting some kind of like injury designation on him when he wasn't actually injured, and they wouldn't let him practice and stuff because I guess they didn't want him to get hurt so he would not hurt his trade value. So
Mm-hmm.
a little bit weird on the Colts part for doing that, and he was justifiably upset about that. And then next thing you know, a few weeks later, the Colts are like, you know what, whatever, we're not going to give you the money, so we will grant your trade request. So since then, there's been several teams on the phone. The Colts have received offers, put in anything. It did made an offer. This whole situation very intriguing with Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Would I take him on the team? Sure. Make a move like this? Also, yes. Because I think the Eagles making a trade for Ajayi, they're just like, you know what? We're trying to win a Super Bowl, so we'll go all in to do it. I like taking all in moves. Did I really need to though? Probably not. I would say no. As great as he is, and I would take him. But no, I mean, I think Swift as the lead back is going to do great, and I think the other guys on the team, Boston Scott's obviously been here for years and has contributed. Still
Mm-hmm.
have expectations for him. We'll see what ends up with the final 53. Don't know if Trey Sermon's going to make the team. That'll be interesting. All the running backs that we have, we know that these guys can get it done behind this O line. This O line is a great O line. So, you know what?
Best in football.
I really don't think that it's something that they have to do. But if it happens, it happens. It would be great. But I don't think they have to do it. I think this is just a classic move by Howie he calls people all the time. If you ask other people in the NFL, they say that anytime there's a situation like this, he's always calling saying, hey, what's going on with this player? What's the situation? I think that's just what he's trying to do. I think he's just kind of flirting with it. I would say right now I don't expect a trade to happen. But if it did, that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just a siege of opportunity, if you will. I mean, yeah, as the rumors go, we're trying to make some kind of push for negotiation, wanting to bring him in. I mean, if we do, we're adding him to what's already a strong core in that running back room. But to me, I think the cons outweigh the pros here. Um, while you already while you would get an already dangerous back in Jonathan Taylor behind the best offensive line in football, I think it's more about the cost that comes with it that you have to try and justify. Like we've seen already this offseason and how, I think guys like Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs at one point were
Mm-hmm.
disgruntled or when it came to getting proper compensation as top featured pieces in their respected offenses. Um, and it's a shame because the running back position has it's always been troubled with trying to build some sort of value and it hasn't properly happened for them. And then you see a guy like Ezekiel Elliott that doesn't get picked back up by the Cowboys because, well, you can say either on or off that he didn't satisfy the the contract that extension that he was given, and he finds a new home with the Patriots. I think points like that, they also don't include the injury baggage that comes with a player that the Colts are trying to seek a first round pick for as their asking price. And us Eagles fans, we already have a good idea
Yeah,
of
that's not
what
going to
it's
happen.
like. Yeah, we have a good idea of what it's like to watch running backs for this team go through injuries and to keep them out for a considerable amount of time. Sometimes those adjustments aren't fun to make when you lose a strong contributing wrinkle in your offense. You mentioned Jay Ajayi, knee issues. Corey Clement had an ACL tear. Darren Sproles had an ACL tear. I think he had something with his arm too that he might have broke. Miles Sanders, who just recently went to the Carolina Panthers because we didn't want to pay him. He ends up getting, I think, about $25 million for 4 years. And this is a kid that missed 5 games for 2 straight seasons due to a nagging ankle injury. I think at the end of it, there's no denying the talent of Jonathan Taylor, because all the running backs that I've named off are not in the same class, obviously. But my thing is, if the Eagles let Miles walk after him having his first Pro Bowl year, rushing for almost 1,300 yards, being a massive part of the Super Bowl run, regardless of him not getting a whole lot of touches in that game for whichever reason or another. To me, it's hard to imagine the Eagles paying more for a back that just had ankle surgery back in January. The very injury that kept him out 6 games last season. When we watched knees and ankles plague the same position before. And this is considering the running back by committee approach for the Eagles. So, as we know right now, I think the Colts gave Jonathan a soft deadline, I think, of August 29th to find a trade partner that would satisfy the asking price for his services or something of similar value. The only known team of 2 that have given an offer to the Colts right now is the Miami Dolphins, and their first initial offer got rejected. But I think there was 6 teams involved at one point.
Yeah.
And one mock trade that I did see for Philly was giving Indy a second rounder in 24, Rashad Penny, and Quez for Jonathan Taylor. Would you do that?
I think I would, to be honest. But the question is this going to be a rental?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if they won the Super Bowl, then obviously I don't even think anybody would really care about being a rental or the second round pick. But still, the team is not going to probably pay Jonathan Taylor the money that he wants, because in history, the team hasn't really done that. The last time they did it was when they gave DeMarco Murray a bunch of money, and that was because Chip Kelly was making all the decisions. I mean, they gave Shady a pretty good contract, if I remember, but
yes,
they pretty much don't pay ever since then. In the last few years, since Doug and Nick has been the coach, it hasn't really happened. So, and I think that it's crazy the amount of, what's the right way to put this? The way the running back position is treated, I think, is kind of crazy. Like, honestly, I know that most teams are not going to value the position, so I don't really have an issue with it. But I kind of feel like somewhere you got to draw the line. Somewhere you got to draw the line. You can't just have guys like Jonathan Taylor and Saquon or Derrick Henry or whoever that performs at the best of the best at the best level, and then when the time's for the contract, you give him a crap offer. So I feel for him. I think he's great. But I think if the Eagles trade for him, I think it's a rental. I think it is. I think it's a Kawhi Leonard Toronto Raptors situation. If the ring happens, then I guess nobody cares. But I can't foresee the Eagles doing this and then giving him like a big contract. As great as he is, I can't see it. I would have to see it actually happen to believe it.
I think simply enough, you would be playing with a bigger fire than what you already are right now. Yeah, high risk, high reward. Absolutely. There's no question. I think some of the bigger pros is Jonathan Taylor's familiarity with Nick Sirianni, of course, when Nick was the offensive coordinator, I think back in, I think it was 2020. And Jonathan Taylor still had a good year that year. They rushed for 11 or 1,200 yards. Brian Johnson knows him well. I think Jonathan also grew up in New Jersey around a bunch of Eagles fans. So you can imagine that the connection is there, much like how we treated it with Hassan Reddick. So, those are pretty high considerable pros that you can add to it, but they're already taking some kind of a risk with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. And like I said, we have known to watch running backs for this team go through injuries that, keep them out for X amount of time. Miles Sanders, it was a headache with him at times, as he'd come back and he'd come back and he wasn't exactly the same. 2020 was a awful struggle for him. The amount of fumbles that he's accumulated over the years, I think 9 in 4 years doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's very situational, as we've known. But nonetheless, yeah, you have a higher tiered player, obviously, in Jonathan Taylor, but he comes with the same injury baggage that we have already dealt with before. So not only do you have to give the compensation for him, but you got to try and find a number to pay him on top of that. And if you put yourself in a situation where he misses 5+ games like he did last season, although he's coming off of surgery for that ankle repair, now what? I think DeAndre Swift is I think as old as him too. I think they're both 24 years old. So
I wonder how DeAndre would feel if he came into Philly. And he's also from Philly. You mentioned Hassan and you mentioned Jonathan, but he's also Philly kid. And he's very excited to come in, and all signs lead to him being the lead back. Do you think that would cause an issue? Like if, he kind of felt like, I'm supposed to be the lead back, was there a little bit disrespect factor after all the work that he puts in, and then they just say, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and bring in JT. What do you think?
I have to imagine so. If you break it down, then that means the whole running back room probably has the feeling in the back of their mind that, well, wait a minute, the organization still doesn't think that we're good enough. Well, what's going on here? I'd have to imagine that's how DeAndre would feel after the team traded for him. So, well, I mean, there's the business side of it at the end of the day too, and what the kind of positivity that competition can breed. Man, I don't know. I personally
don't
do
think
not
the
see it.
organization should ever stop trying to bring great players, but
No.
But if I was someone like DeAndre, then yeah, I think I would feel a little disrespected.
I think history has shown too that just about every team, I think in the last decade or so, or a little bit later, the leading rushers in the Super Bowl have not made more than $2.5 million in a year, in 1 year alone.
Yeah.
So, are the Eagles going to pay that now? No, I don't see it. That's not how he operates.
Honestly, I think we can both agree this probably isn't going to happen. It's a fun conversation to have. It's definitely interesting, but I think if he does get traded, he'll end up somewhere else. He'll end up somewhere where there's like a more of a need at the position, and also somewhere where they wouldn't mind, giving him a pretty considerable payday. So if he moved to Miami happens, I actually really wouldn't be surprised at all.
I mean, we certainly know that we're a team that's not afraid to add a strength to a strength. I think the offensive line is a perfect example of that, because the buck stops with Jeff Stoutland. They're all his men. It's what he wants. And it's the same thing from a contractual standpoint and a compensation standpoint in terms of trade transactions. Where does the buck stop, and how much Howie Roseman is willing to give? So, I mean, we have a lot of capital for 24, and I understand that, and we're a team that's trying to remain at the top of the totem pole after the Super Bowl loss, respectively.
As they should.
Having Jonathan Taylor in this offense would be disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
I think we know that.
Jalen Hurts is just it's hard to it's just hard to trying to think of the word here, but it's already hard to try and figure out what the Eagles do offensively for how versatile Hurts is in terms of a passer and a runner, because I think that criticism has been put to bed already. But you put Jonathan Taylor back there, and you're gonna have defenses looking in circles. What are we supposed to do? Is he gonna hand it off and this guy's gonna run us over, or oh my goodness, like endless possibilities. But
or play action, throw it to AJ. You never know what's gonna happen. So the offense is crazy. We know that. It would be this has been a really interesting conversation. So we'll have to see where Jonathan ultimately ends up getting traded to. So, but let's talk. We talked about a lot about the offense. Let's talk about the defense. Let's talk about the biggest story of the Eagles' summer of training camp, preseason, whatever, has been Jalen Carter, the first-round pick out of Georgia. Obviously had off-the-field issues, fell to the 9th pick. I was there in Kansas City covering the draft for Sideline Sports. Was in the media room when the pick was announced, and I'm still pretty much in shock by the fact that he fell to the Eagles at 9. The way that the draft board fell, I didn't think that he was going to make it past the top 5. I thought that Detroit was going to look at him, and I thought Seattle would look at him. And once he got past Seattle, I think they took who did they take with their first pick? The cornerback from Illinois. Can't remember his name right now. But when that happened, that's when I started to say, yo, this could really happen tonight. And it did.
You say
And
Devin Witherspoon?
Witherspoon, that's who it was. So I was just in shock. Because we know what he really brings to the table. And what he did in Georgia, he was crazy. Like, as good as Jordan Davis was, this guy is so much better than Jordan Davis. He can move. He's an incredible athlete. He's strong. And this guy's been pushing people around. He's been pushing people around. Like, every time you hear something about the Eagles practice, you know, he did this to the Eagles O-line. Even people like Dallas Goedert. I saw a quote from Dallas Goedert where he was like, yeah, man, it's pretty much hell trying to block this guy in practice. I'm very happy that he's on our side, but I can't imagine, like, trying to stop him for a whole game. So I'm very excited to see what he's going to do in the season. Obviously, the trenches is something the Eagles really value. You lose Javon Hargrave, who had 10 sacks last year. Great player. The 49ers got a good one for sure, and we're going to talk about the 49ers a little bit later in the show. But losing Javon and adding Jalen Carter, the Eagles' defensive line may not only skip a beat, but they also might get better.
Whoa, hold up.
That's actually
Breaking
crazy.
news.
Trey Lance? Yeah, I saw that.
The 49ers have traded Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys for a fourth.
Fourth?
A fourth rounder.
This is crazy. Just to kind of pause this topic. I'll just say this about Trey. This trade by the 49ers to trade up for Trey Lance, this has to be remembered as one of the worst trades of all time. Like, if you consider what they gave up to Miami and then what Miami turned it into, which was they got Tyreek, they got Waddle, and they got Bradley Chubb. 3 great players. And the other thing is all the great players of the 2021 class. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, Micah Parsons. Players that was drafted after Trey Lance. A lot of these guys are great players. And so the 49ers completely struck out with this. And they're rocking with Purdy, and we'll see how it goes. But to me, really bad trade.
Wow.
What do you think?
I think I think it's, and of course it's another, I mean, to me, it's wild to see. It's wild to see Trey Lance in this position after, watching us go through this in a similar vein with another North Dakota State quarterback who ended up getting a new deal but didn't come close to fulfilling it and had such an awful flame out with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the connection.
So is it a good situation for him in Dallas?
Well, there's Dallas doesn't have a Ben DiNucci to worry about because I think where did he go? Where did he go to the XFL, the USFL? I think he was playing for one of those leagues, and then the immortal Cooper Rush. So I don't know if Trey Lance couldn't beat out Sam Darnold for that QB2 spot. I mean, would Trey have a better chance against Cooper Rush? Well, we'll see. Is he secretly coming for Dak's job? like all of us want to put it for humor's sake.
I know I've always been one to say I don't don't hype up training camp and everything, but people have been saying Dak has been looking like pretty bad. They've been saying this is one of his worst camps, so we're gonna have to see what the Cowboys do this season. But it's an interesting move. It's an interesting situation. He can go there, be the backup. I don't know what's gonna happen, but like I said, 49ers, they're lucky that they have a lot of talent. They're lucky they got a lot of talent because trades like this, where you trade 3 first-round picks and then the quarterback completely just does nothing, this is the type of moves to get GMs fired. But because the 49ers are basically a stacked team, John Lynch is safe, but if this was any other situation, he would have been gone. That's all I got to say about that. But Lindy,
how many years did Alex Smith get in San Fran versus?
Oh, he was there for a while. He was there for quite a while.
That's wild.
So, talk to me about Jalen Carter.
I think the easiest way that you can put this, it's a good feeling to know that your high value rookies are coming in as advertised, to be given the remarks that they are from veteran captains, players of your favorite team. And some guys have not been short of these compliments, especially for Jalen Carter. And I don't think it's fair either to single him out, and I'll get to that in a second. But, guys like Big Play Slay, I think Slay was talking about him on one of his recent podcast episodes and saying that, he looks like a baby rhino on the field and just, knocking people left and right. As you were saying, going up against Lane Johnson. I think Lane was talking about that, this dude is ready to play like right now. And just in saying in a nutshell that some of these guys, and Hassan Reddick has talked about it too, they're witnessing and playing around or practicing around a special player in the making in his upcoming debut season in the National Football League, going from such a high tier program in Georgia and getting those back-to-back national championships. And now you try and cement a similar pedigree in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles, and 4 of your teammates from those teams. We talked about this at least a few times now, just how rare that happens at all, where you got, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Jalen Carter, 5 teammates from one college program, high tier guys on the same team. Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter being taken in the first round. Everyone talking about, man, Philadelphia is just Philly's just
how does Nolan Smith go to the 30th pick? 30th pick for Nolan Smith.
And speaking of Nolan Smith, he's gotten some high praise himself to be in the mix for a defense, that is coming off of a historically dominant performance from an overall perspective last season. Almost knocking off that vaunted Bears squad for the most amount of sacks in a single season. And, setting, breaking this record, setting this record, coming close to this one. Just unbelievable. And then for Jalen Carter's case, going back to him, I talked about Slay mentioning him as a baby rhino. Fletcher Cox getting in the mix, saying that, how well Carter is picking up everything, acting like a pro. Just his communication from a defensive standpoint, showing a dominance of strength. Fletch is another guy that's said he's really happy that Jalen Carter is here, and that the Eagles don't have to play against them. And then you go to Nolan Smith again, and it was Hassan Reddick agreeing with Jordan Mailata's assessment in Jordan calling Nolan like a baby or a mini Hassan. They've talked about his explosiveness off the ball, being able to have his way with you as a secure tackler, hard to get away from. I think the big thing here,
Wendy, didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to ask a question. Is the Eagles' defense going to be better or worse than last year with these additions?
Ooh. It's a tall task, no doubt. I don't know. I think the way I see it is, I would love to set. I would absolutely love to.
You would love to say yes,
right now.
But
I would love to set the expectation right now and say that they are going to be better. But that's you're then saying that Sean Desai is a better coordinator than Jonathan Gannon when we don't know what the result is going to be. We hope that's the case for how well we were able
to see how Sean runs his defense.
Yes.
And it's real and during the regular season.
From what we've been seeing in joint practices and some of the preseason games, he's not afraid to blitz, and that has gone to being pretty popular with some Eagles fans. But to me, the big thing is the theme staying the same from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the draft, seeing your investment to hope it comes as advertised for the Eagles, taking 2 first-round defensive players. It seems to me so far that these two, and of course this should include the likes of Keely Ringo, so long as his development comes on cue and he keeps getting better and better. And I don't think he necessarily did himself any favors in giving up on one play and preventing Anthony Richardson from getting a first down. But it is what it is sometimes, rookie mistake. But to see the amount of potential that there is here and still have the level of optimism that we do after losing some pretty strong staples and watching Hargrave go to San Fran, losing the linebackers that we did, trying to replace them, and in a core of guys that we still don't necessarily have a whole lot of confidence in that group right now. The same can be said for the safety position outside of Reed Blankenship, but Sidney Brown is making his name known right now. But overall, a lot more tools for Sean Desai to add to his kit, and that's what I'm hoping for. The amount of versatility that can be created to keep opposing offenses guessing, and yeah, I think that's the best thing that I can look forward to for this season, outside of getting back to the Super Bowl again.
Mm-hmm. Well said. I don't think I can put any better than that. That's almost about it that we have time for. But I want to play a short clip, and then we're just going to react to some recent comments by 49ers media still talking about the NFC Championship game. Will they ever let it go? Well, let's listen. Let's take a listen.
I'm so sick of it. Yeah. If Niner fans did this, okay, you know what they would file it under? Thugs. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
You know why? Because our fan base looks a little different than the Philadelphia fan base. Yeah. Believe me, I've been to both stadiums. All right? I'm so sick of this. We do this thing with Philadelphia fans. You don't know what's coming for you. What? A bunch of low-life scumbags cussing and swearing and throwing things at people?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sick of it. And, good for Debo for hanging up on him.
I'm going to stop it there. I feel like this. First of all, it was corny. We can both agree about that. But I feel like this could be a potential rivalry, a great rivalry between the Eagles and the 49ers, because I think everyone would agree that these are the two best teams in the NFC. And the 49ers have a great roster. The Eagles have a great roster. And when I look at these two teams, like it's a very exciting matchup, but them holding on to this for so long, and not just them, but how many times have we discussed about Deebo Samuel on this show and all the stuff that he's been saying since the Super Bowl or since the NFC Championship? Really, it takes away from it, man. Like, at some point you gotta let it go and say, hey, you know what? This team got the better of us. They're a great team. Maybe we will see them again in the NFC Championship. And then maybe it'll be a different result. But we don't know. So I think that these guys just got to let it go, man. It's been long enough. We literally got 2 or 3 weeks or however long it is until week 1, and you are still going on about it. Just let it go.
I understand that they had the unfortunate position that they did to go through almost 2 quarterback changes in the NFC Championship game. I get that part. But did Vikings fans cry this bad when they got annihilated back in?
They did. They cried a lot, but I did not remember it being this bad.
So I mean, it's, just like, take your punches like a man, and take the high road and say that, well, we just hope that for our next matchup, both teams are 100% healthy, so we can really gauge how good one another is, and leave it all in the field. Of course, us two here can't speak for other Eagles fans in being civilized about it, because every fan base is going to have that group of people. They need to stop singling us out and stop singling other fan bases out.
Just repeat the same thing to hear everybody say. That's what it is. That's what it is when it comes to Philly fans. All the stuff about Santa Claus, like, what does everybody do? Santa Claus, this, and all. You hear the same story like repeated over and over again, because that's what everyone says, but they don't actually know.
The jail underneath
Yeah, all
vet.
all the stuff. So that's pretty much what we got time for tonight. Lindy, it was great having you back, having another
Yes.
episode of LinkedIn. You want to let
Likewise.
people know where they can find you?
Can't find me like you
Find
used
you
to.
guys.
Unfortunately, can't find me like you used to. Still contemplating it to this day. Do I resurrect do I resurrect Lindy End Zone? I don't know.
I think if it's something you really want to do, and A, something you really want to do, and B, you actually have time to do it, because that's a big thing, then I would do it. If not, then just continue to do the show, because everyone enjoy, all the Eagles fans enjoy this show. So we're on the sideline airwaves every Friday at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, right before the gauntlet, which I'm getting ready to head right over there. That's pretty much it, guys. So with that being said, LinkedIn country, let's ride.